cool, but I don't think it's for me. I had done some casual button mashing, but I never dove into the deeper mechanics. When I saw the gulf between what I was able to do and what others were doing, I told myself there was no way I'd ever be able to get there. Then, a few years ago, I decided to try for real. Was it worth it? Yes. I can tell you without exaggeration that fighting games have brought me more joy than anything else I've put my gaming hours into.
Cool.
It's a distinct category of enjoyment unto itself.
Let's go.
Constructed from the greatest pleasures of gaming. The childlike joy of hitting buttons and seeing cool shit happen. The slow burn tension of outmaneuvering an opponent in a strategy game. The Dark Souls satisfaction of studying a boss's patterns and exploiting their weaknesses. It's meditative, it's rhythmic, it's sports. It's therapeutic, it's communal. It's the closest you're ever going to come to feeling like Rocky or your favorite shonen protagonist. It's made me happier, and it's made my brain feel better. It is absolutely worth it. But it takes a lot of work, and looking at that from the outside can be overwhelming and intimidating. This guide is for people who have been studying that water and thinking about jumping in. Hopefully, you can use this video as a gentle, supportive push into the pool.
That's a really good way to put it.
Fighting games without losing your mind.
The bad feelings are overridden by how fucking fun it is.
This one's kind of obvious, but it's also essential. Your desire to get into fighting games is going to be the thing that fuels you through the hard stuff. If you're fighting game curious, but you're not sure if you're ready to take the dive, there is some other stuff you can do to gradually expose yourself. For starters, watch some matches. He wasn't looking. It's really exciting to see the top players just going nuts.
Oh, it's the banned game.
Here are some of my favorites. Goichi versus Sonic Fox at EVO 2018.
Here?
Rules. It's like an unstoppable force versus an immovable object.
Playing them right now, thank you.
Goichi's defense is like an iron
It's not actually bad, Reggie.
Oh, okay, that's fair. Just...
Jesus Christ.
wall. But Sonic Fox's offense is just relentless. You know that Sonic Fox is going to do some work as soon as they get an opening. So every mix-up is just so tense.
They're so fun to watch.
Wow.
Yeah. That's okay. So
Lil Majin's whole Evo.
What do you call the phenomenon of like games we don't give a fuck about, but we're watching them at grand finals at Evo and we're super in?
Yeah.
Right? Street Fighter V, which I was yawning at for the entire year, but you're super hype in that setting to watch the thing because it's an amplifier.
Yep.
And watching the highest level play as well is also an amplifier.
Displaying what can be done and how it is at the highest level. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's I can like it's that Super Bowl, thing. Like I've heard I've heard like UFC events live, for example, are like holy fucking shit crazy. And it's like, the live event spectacle just adds to it on top of everything, We have been like we watch top 8 for games again that we don't give a fuck about. But when you're watching it live at the arena, it's so cool.
Run was also great. Majin was an American player in a game that was historically dominated by Korean and Japanese players. So it's a combination of an underdog with the home field advantage. Plus he's playing a super fun character with big splashy moves.
Have you ever seen...
But it's not just about what the players are doing. Hearing the audience and commentators get excited.
I told you about the King chart, right? The King throw break chart?
Yeah.
Sorry, we're going to just take a little...
Interrupt?
I'm going to see if I can, because we're going to do this, but it just makes me think of it. I want to say Max tweeted it out the other day. King's chains. Well, how to break. One break, 2 break, 1+2, or 1 or 2 depending on which way he goes. So blue and yellow are 1 and 2 respectively. The mix is the mix. Red is 1+2. And you can, and this is a simplified version of what starts each sequence and then where they can go with it. And if you're playing a King player that knows everything, you need to know after you eat the reversal arm slam, and after you eat the reverse arm slam, the only thing that can happen after that is a 1 break. Right? If you eat this, the stretch bomb, then it's a 1+2. Or sorry, a 1 or a 2. You guess wrong, you have to guess again. You guess wrong, you guess again. And then you pick a route. but essentially you're looking for every example of 2 of the same color forced, because there's only one follow-up that will happen, and you must break that.
Yeah, I'm screwed.
You have to learn King as well.
Yeah.
And if you don't, you're dead. And King is amazing without the throws.
Yeah.
King is a super good character that doesn't even need to grapple you.
You're going to get schmixed.
Off for the big moments will help you figure out what's important and what to pay attention to.
And he's so scared of getting hit because he's got that
Oh, God. Oh, God.
Into the critical arc.
If you're in the mood to chill and watch some super thoughtful, accessible video essays about the underlying mechanics and philosophies of fighting games, pop on Gerald Lee, aka Core A Gaming.
Yeah, Corey.
My personal favorite is Why Button Mashing Doesn't Work. Also, follow some fighting game people on Twitter and Twitch and stuff. There's a lot of people doing really interesting streams and posting funny clips that are going to make you want to play.
Whose idea was it to make
If
his
we were, we
pubes
would
his
have gotten
legs?
a heads up about it a while ago.
Deck you with the refrigerator. You thought it was
That's
like
okay.
unplug that shit off the wall. Let's get money.
There will be a
We're
lot
in the
of
corner,
in-jokes and
Reggie. All good.
terminology you don't understand, but you'll pick it up soon enough through context clues. And if you need a helping hand, check out the infill.net fighting game glossary. They have explanations of all the jargon.
Super good.
Step 2. Pick a game.
A frequently
I've
asked
definitely come across more than one person's like vibe that the name Get Into Fighting Games was misleading, because when I clicked on it not knowing a fighting game, I was expecting to get a detailed walkthrough of how each game was going to go, as opposed to just people who already know it talking about it and just playing it.
I see.
So
Okay.
that's a thing.
among the fighting game curious is, what's a good fighting game for a new player? And the definitive answer is literally whichever game you're interested
Let's
in.
go.
I'm
Exactly.
so serious about this. You need to follow your heart. Look at gameplay trailers, watch some big matches. Whichever game makes you feel the spark is the one that you should chase. That spark will be what fuels you when things get hard. I love martial arts cinema and
Yeah, Woolie, fair criticism. No, it is. It is. And I've addressed it a couple times for a smaller group of people, but I'll say this to a larger group of people, I suppose, that it is true, right? And I think that like that would have been a very different direction for the channel for every Saturday for us to sit down and do a beginner's guide to every single thing that we played, including the games that we don't really know super well. That could have been a way to do it. But I think what I was going for, or what I am going for, and I do still stand by it, is the idea that like the most intimidating parts of like, I guess, sort of overthinking how to step into it. When I play a game for the first time on Saturdays, we pop it in, we see who looks cool, we just start pressing buttons and figuring it out.
Yep.
And it's kind of just a thing where like focusing on what's fun about a video game is the thing that like you're going to really enjoy and want to come back to. So I kind of just, my goal is to sort of demonstrate that you don't have to overthink looking up information outside of the game. You don't have to worry about too much of that stuff at the beginning.
Yeah, you can find pleasure in the discovery.
You
of
can
the
just
game.
sit and press some buttons and have fun with it. Now,
Yeah.
a very important part of that, of course, is I have you sitting here and we can both just play it and have fun. If you have someone nearby locally that you can mess around with and you're both just like, you know, we don't know what's going on, we're just figuring it out, that's a really fun way to enjoy a fighting game as well. In fact, that's kind of, you know, what I like to show. When you're alone and you're using just the internet, it is a different experience, admittedly, and you have to kind of like, you know, deal with the online experience more. But overall, the thesis statement of sorts is don't overthink it, you know? That's kind of why I went about that way.
Just do it. Don't be shy.
Yeah.
Don't be shy.
Not to mention, like, I don't think many people would view just a thorough tutorialized breakdown of, okay, this is what the stick does, this is what punch does, this is what kick does in each game every single Saturday. I think the same people wouldn't necessarily have a fun time coming back to watch that. Whereas Friday Night Fisticuffs, we don't know what the fuck we're doing. We're just popping in stupid fighting games and dicking around and having fun with them. And that's the best part, is you just, you know, you don't have to compete. You don't have to take it, you know,
Get on the ride.
to a level that like other people are necessarily going with. So, but I think that there's that intimidating wall of that's what a lot of people do with it, therefore you think you might have to do that, but
Every single time.
but you super don't.
No.
You know? Yeah, I think that makes sense. For fun, for glory, for fuck's sake.
Oh, right.
wrestling. So for me, the game that grabbed my attention was Tekken. The pace of animation is a bit slower than...
And as Solidus correctly points out, for those who do want that, we have the newcomers.
True that. We have a few episodes with Punch Mom and with Josh.
And Julien as well.
Julien,
some friends of ours playing fighting games for the very first time.
And it's very interesting to see the progress.
You see somebody go from not knowing anything to, okay,
oh, look,
I can do some
that
stuff
move
in the span of one episode.
Yeah.
I love those games. I love those streams. Those are really fun to do.
In 2D fighters like Street Fighter or Gulity Gear, so it was kind of like watching a choreographed fight scene from the movies in wrestling I love. Before I understood the mid-low mix-ups and frame data, I understood that King did a sick running powerbomb and I loved to see it. You gotta find your access point. You like anime? You like nasty gore?
Ooh.
You like ponies? Get it. But while you're following your heart, you
Get
do
those
need to
ponies.
pay attention to one annoying wrinkle. Because of the old COVID, you're mostly going to be playing online, and not all games have great net play. In games that use delay-based netcode, response times can be sluggish. The good news is that if you're new, you probably won't know what you're missing out on until you taste that crisp offline stuff. If you know that you're mostly going to be playing online, consider choosing a game with rollback netcode. Rollback is an ingenious net play solution that pretty much eliminates the sluggishness inherent to online fighting games. If you want a cool explainer on how it works, check out this video by Core A Gaming. Here are some games with pretty good netcode. If you're not sure if a game has rollback, just Google it, and you'll either find a bunch of blog posts like Punch Kicker adds rollback, or a bunch of Reddit threads like, how come Punch Kicker doesn't have rollback?
Or you could listen to us talk about it like endlessly on the podcast. But to be honest,
Another common question is, what do
aware
I
of
need
that
to
and
start
toning
playing
down,
fighting games?
getting lost
And the
in
good news is, if you
the
play other types of games, you're
meandering
good to go.
discussion.
You need a console or PC and a controller, and that's it. Also, a good internet connection. More on that later. You might think you need a big fancy fight stick, but there's really no direct correlation between performance
That's what
and
we've been
equipment.
saying.
Lots of the best players in the world grew up using readily available console
I had a
controllers
moment on
and
Street
still
Fighter where I was
absolutely
like,
kill with them.
let me see what it's
And
like
the
to
skills
just
and
pat
knowledge you
it
develop using one type
just
of
to see,
controller
because I've
are
never done it
totally
with Street Fighter, but
transferable.
it's like,
There's
yeah,
just a short recalibration
totally doable.
period where you need to
Yeah.
develop some new muscle memory. That said,
In
if
fact,
you have
so
the
many good
resources
players
and
now
the
are
inclination,
in fact,
fight
everything
sticks
that's not
can be
in
a
game
lot
in
of
match
fun.
is
They're
better with a pad.
tactile and hefty, and they make good noises. So let's talk about them. Most of the sticks you'll
I know he kind of went past it real quickly, but like that part that he mentioned about like finding a game that has a thing that you think is cool, like that is so important. Like, because I don't know anything about MOBAs,
Okay.
but I know there's League of Legends and I know there's Dota, right? But if I were to pick a genre where it was way more wide and like let's say like RTS, right? I know old RTS games. I don't know anything current. If I were to be like, yo, I want to get into RTS, like most of the time when someone gets into, if you think about the way you get into a lot of other games, you don't get into a game because of the genre it is.
Yeah.
A lot of people get into a game because a friend shows them a cool thing, or they see a cool stream of someone playing it, or they see a trailer for something that goes that makes them interested in it. But you end up being pretty you end up being attracted to a specific thing, right? So like if you coming at fighting games like in that kind of way, it's understandable how there's be like, okay, I want to get into the genre, but like it's so important to like kind of have a thing of like, what do you like though? What do you think is cool? What do you enjoy outside of this genre entirely, right? Do you like anime? Do you like Dragon Ball?
Yeah.
Do you like Vegeta? You know? Do you like fantasy? Do you like anime fantasy? Do you like
swords?
Swords?
Mhm.
Right? How about this sword guy? Killick, or not Killick, Siegfried, you know, or Nightmare, or Soul Calibur. you know, yeah, like and kind of, or like even just like and looking at it from just a kind of stepping back thing. If there's an IP that you like, you know, if you're like into Gundam, you can check out like
options.
There's options. If you're like, yo, I like Gundam and I'd like to try a fighting game, you know, like you can legitimately, I mean, Endless Duel is like a super good like real fighting game, but like even though the genre is kind of not, it's not 100% a 2D traditional fighter, but like the Gundam games, Extreme Versus and stuff that are played like, you know, kind of competitively, like you can get into those in a similar way and have a similar kind of fun with it. Like there's a lot of your taste that's going to be important when it comes to whether or not you stick with it, right? Because if you're kind of showing, not everybody's the same, but if you were showing me an RTS that was like a thing that I don't know in a world that I'm not interested in necessarily, and I have to kind of be sold on the world while being simultaneously sold on the genre, that's 2 extra levels of obscurity and obtuseness that are going to be a hurdle.
Yeah, that's 2 checks extra that you need to pass
for me to want to come back to it in my spare time, right? If I have to be sold on both of those things, it's extra difficult. And this is kind of partly related to why I like my characters and why I fall in love with them, you know?
You have something to latch on.
Yeah. And when you play competitively at things, like it becomes, what you do is normal in that like you're into the competition, therefore you're into winning in that context, no matter what the game is.
So I need to understand the system.
But that comes so far after.
That's not what you start with.
The point where you're like, yo, Smash Brothers, oh shit, Star Fox characters in a Nintendo fighting game? What?
Yeah.
Right?
Oh my god, Link and
that's
so cool.
That is so far in the distant past behind you, but that step is so crucial. So
that's what will definitely hook you in.
Yeah. And now there are games that have easier execution and easier you have an easier time learning to play it, and some of them are great for getting people in. Like DNF Duel did a lot to help some people that are like, oh yo, this is fun to play, I'm not having a hard time with the execution. But admittedly, like, you have to have an open mind for, like, again, a brand new world and setting that you may or may not dig what's going on, or so. It definitely helps if you're kind of like, yo, My Little Pony, that's cool, I like Them's Fighting Herds art style, similar thing going on, yeah, that's fun, let me try that, you know. So anyway, all this is a long-winded way of essentially saying that what you find cool outside of fighting games entirely is a really great way to help you narrow down what you should try, you know. 3D or 2D, again, it's not going to matter that much. You can kind of, like, you're good when you feel like, yo, I want to use Vegeta right now.
Yeah.
That's the thing that's going to be like, yo, let's boot up fighters.
Yeah.
Because I feel like, yo, I want to play as Vegeta. That's the feeling that is going to make you want to come back to it, versus like, okay, I learned a couple things with a new thing, and yeah, I think I'm just going to go back to, you know, the other thing. So yeah, does that make sense? You know,
it's fine.
Yeah,
you need a hook.
You need a hook.
That's very important. You can't keep them in if you don't got a hook.
One Piece, Naruto. I don't know enough about One Piece games, unfortunately, but I do know that Naruto has the Ultimate Ninja Storm games, right? Like, those are the latest in the Naruto fighting games that exist. I don't know what One Piece has, but those are places that, exactly, those are things to look at, you know.
One Piece is real.
Yeah, not everything's gonna have a current thing, of course. Naruto hasn't been current with a fighting game for a very long time, admittedly, so keep that in mind as well, you know. But yeah, just to elaborate on that note.
Are ball top square gate, meaning the joystick moves around in a square frame. It makes it easy to lock in important fighting games.
What is that thing about the One Piece being real? The One Piece is real? What is that?
I don't even know how that reached me. Someone mentioned it.
Yeah, it's all over Twitter. I've seen it. I don't know what it means.
Then, like, there's some dude and he's just like in front of a camera and it's like, the One Piece is real.
Is it in response to something that's happened in the actual manga?
I have no freaking idea, dude.
All right.
In positions like
down
back, you can just physically feel it. Another less common configuration is bat top K lever. These ones don't have a gate, and they use a rubber grommet to return to the neutral position. The result is that they're a bit spongier, and you gotta be more precise with your inputs. Unless you're planning to go all in on Tekken or you grew up on these, I'd steer clear for now. Finally, hitbox-style controllers replace the joystick with more arcade buttons.
What am I about to say? about bat tops. Make a hard read.
You won't be able to play with other sticks if you try to borrow it. If you use like a particular weird
and
not default stick.
And it breaks.
And it breaks. Oh, that's bad.
If you use a weird stick
and your thing breaks,
you'll be very uncomfortable with any other stick that's not a default one.
Yeah.
They take some getting used to, but they allow for extremely precise inputs. But maybe the biggest benefit is that they're pretty damn ergonomic. Cranking on a fight stick can stress out your shoulders and fingers. My elderly thumbs don't have what it takes to mash on a D-pad anymore. A hitbox is comfy, and it lets you nail your inputs without straining. Most controllers work with PC and one type of console. If you ever plan on attending a local event, I'd suggest going for a controller that will work with the PS4. That's what they're going to be using there. Tuning your control setup is fun, and it can become a hobby of its own. But the biggest...
I tried to make my fight stick video time agnostic as best as I could by emphasizing that sticks are all about the parts. You know, if we go 5 generations from now and you're wondering what to use, well, Sanwa buttons are going to be good, and a JLF stick is going to be good, no matter what company is putting them together in the box and selling it to you. You know, so that's kind of the current form is you know, time sensitive.
I want to give you is do not gear gate yourself. Don't put an artificial boundary between you and the thing you want to do. You're just denying yourself the pleasure of playing and getting better. But let's talk about a real boundary.
Step 4.
Not everybody can play on piano. Leave it to Trick Greg.
If your connection to your opponent is not steady, you're simply not going to have a nice time playing with each other. You'll be more likely to biff your execution, but more importantly, it'll just be sluggish and jittery. So most of the online fighting game community adhere religiously to the Ethernet cable, because direct wiring takes a big failure point out of the networking pipeline. The anti-Wi-Fi sentiment online is severe enough that it will affect your experience. Lots of games have Wi-Fi indicators, and opponents are less likely to accept a match with you if they're worried that you'll have a dodgy connection. That means you should get wired up. When I had roommates, I would run cable down my hallway when I was playing and then coil it up when I was done, so our common spaces weren't a constant tripping hazard. This might involve some negotiation and compromise, but it's absolutely worth it.
It'll help a lot.
Step 5.
And by help, I mean it's fucking mandatory.
So, who are some good characters for new fighting game players? The answer, regardless of the game, is whoever you think looks cool.
Hey,
once again, your enthusiasm is going to be the emotional well from which you draw the motivation to grind out combos and do the difficult work of learning. And you don't always have to pick the Ryu of the game to learn the fundamentals. For example, when I started Tekken 7, I played King, because I liked that he was a huge cool tier who did all my favorite wrestling moves. He's a great character, but he also has a big, bloated moveset that he's picked up over decades of Tekken games. He's got some complicated inputs, and as a grappler, he approaches combat differently from most of the roster. But I liked him. I liked the way his moves looked. I liked his vibe. So I had the motivation to put
for the
in
popularity.
Work. Later, when I picked up Gulity Gear Strive, I went with Soul Bad Guy, because he's kind of the Ryu of that game, and he was really strong at the time. I thought that having a high-tier character who exemplified the fundamentals of that series would help me learn. So I tried for a while, and then I fell off and told myself maybe Gulity Gear wasn't for me. A few months later, I came back and I tried the character who I really wanted to play all along, and it all clicked. I loved looking at my little guy. I loved his gigantic hands and his booty drop. And I love busting. So I was motivated to play and learn. Don't let
people are going to get hands on
discussions dissuade you.
And they're going to be like,
pick who you think looks cool. I can do what? I literally can't say this enough.
Oh no, Garuda's gone. Oh, what do you have else?
Once you've selected your little
ICBM?
guy, hop into training mode and start hitting buttons. See what they do. See how it feels.
We'll make this work.
Some games like Gulity Gear Strive and Mortal Kombat have decent tutorials that explain fighting game fundamentals and include challenges to test your knowledge. Any fighting game worth playing will also have a full command list in the start menu. If you like what you're feeling, hop onto YouTube and search for some character guide.
And this is where it comes to, because unfortunately not enough games do the work. And when they do a good job, it's really just like, okay, they're not as bad as it used to be. There's a there's a fine line. And it's, you know what, and it's understandably difficult because you don't know what the skill level of the person coming into this is, right?
True.
And that's also why it's like when making these kind of videos, it's difficult, right? So like, if you're someone who already knows how to press buttons and move a stick around, then you're already like a step ahead of somebody who's like, what is this thing on my lap? But the guide in game for each character, like, if it's too comprehensive, it turns people off because it takes so long for them to just get to what they care about. And if it's not comprehensive enough, then they get spit out and they feel as if like, well, I didn't learn anything. And then you just go online and you get bodied and then you're like, I'm not having fun. So how do you toe that line, right? Is having somebody sit through a thing that says, okay, walk forward. Okay, now walk back. Okay, now jump. Okay, now duck. Okay, now press this one, that. And like, is that the best way? It's like, yeah, I mean, what it needs to be there for people who don't know anything. But I think explaining outright, like, so that people can know what they're in for and like what they're like, saying outright that like, okay, if you're already familiar with movement and like that type of stuff, you really want to just get into like what makes this particular game unique, you know, then like you can move on to this grouping or so. But it's a very difficult process that like people have spent way more money than me talking right now, you know, to figure out like how to approach. And that's why when it came time for us to do something similar, I decided that the best way to do it would be to have a literal person sit here and ask all the questions someone who's never done this before will ask. What better environment than the one that is actually real happening here on stream? So when we did those newcomers episodes, again, I'm going to plug them harder because they're really good. Somebody who doesn't know anything is going to sit down and ask all the questions, and we can move past whatever doesn't need knowing or explaining, that whatever is not that important, to just get to the core of what is fun. And something that we did on the last episode, I think that was great, was when like it was like, okay, let's go through these explanations of the mechanics, not so that you're going to memorize them and do them in battle, but just so that you're not going to be like, whoa, what the fuck just happened when you see someone push block. Just so that you know what that looks
just like. You can see it once and maybe you'll recall it the next time you see it.
That's it.
Yeah.
You know, to just put it in your brain that it's like, there's clubs, there's spades, there's hearts, and there's diamonds, and there's not going to be anything else outside of those four. That's it. Just to make sure. And it doesn't matter if you don't know what the faces are yet. Just those are the limits of that, you know. And then let's just jump in training mode and press some buttons. Yo, do that cool fucking Final Flash with Vegeta. How sick is that? Okay, here's the button combination to do that. You know, here's how you do his Gullet gun. Here's how you, and just that, and you just kind of like, you touch buttons so that like you're still having fun with the game, and not just like, here's the Wikipedia page now. All right,
look at these tables.
And then like once you're past that point and you're more comfortable, and I would say like you get to the state that most of the players got to at the end of the newcomers episodes, you kind of go like, oh, now I kind of know a bit about my character. I've had one or two matches. I know what's going on and I'm having a bit of fun with this. All right, let me go check out a YouTube video to see like, hey, here's what else you can do with them. You know, something that might not be inherently, you might not pick it up in battle. Watching replays, of course, and all that stuff helps too here. But that's my thought.
This is a really cool thing about fighting games. They are complicated. There are hurdles to overcome, but that complexity is also what makes them so satisfying and fun to play. And people want other people to share in that fun, so they'll put in hours and hours and hours of work to make wonderful guides. Like and subscribe. Character guides are great. Looking at your move list in a game is helpful, but it doesn't instruct you on the overall strategy for that character. A good guide will highlight the most important tools your character has and how to use those tools to win.
Yes.
When you watch a guide, don't expect to internalize everything all at once. That's a ton of information, and it's just not realistic. I've watched the same guides over and over again over the course of weeks, months, and even years. Every time I rewatch, I'll notice the things that I've learned.
Pause it. You remember when I was talking about like doing a tutorial and seeing things, playing the game, going back to the tutorial, re-going through it, being like, oh yeah, I forgot about that. That's true. And then adding there's a good value in redoing these tutorials and rewatching these guides, because like he said, you won't remember everything, but going in game, there are some things that are going to stick, and then you go back to that tutorial and you're like, oh, that little nuance I missed, it's gonna stick this time because I already consolidated this data, but this particular data, I saw it for the second time, and I'm like, I didn't spot it the first time, but I can add it to my gameplay. So I go in game, play again, get a bit better, look at the tutorial again. Oh, okay, I think I understand that. Move on to the next thing. Next thing. Oh, now I know all of the tutorial.
Huge asterisk. If you are already comfortable enough and are in a competitive research phase to be like, okay, how do I step my game up?
Yeah.
Like the default state for you, which is like, okay, let me go learn more about this character. Some people are just like, I just want to learn how to float. I just want to swim.
Yeah.
You know? And it might not be about taking it to that next level. It might just be about getting out the super the moment I wanted it. And that's it.
Yeah.
So there is like beginning.
The beginning, you're gonna
the
be
quest
looking
for
different
knowledge,
things, right?
The beginning, the quest for knowledge is a quest for competence.
Yeah. But that competence will go through, like, you're gonna look at the data.
Yeah.
You're not gonna remember everything.
No.
So once you're done looking at it and leaving and you didn't remember everything, it's a good thing to be like, oh, did I miss something? And you go back to it.
Oh yeah. No. So like, but like, I just mean to say that like that comes after you're like past the part of, okay, I see this basic combo and now I can hit people with it. Right?
Yeah.
Because that takes some people a while.
Yeah. You see the
You
combo,
might be stuck on
but
you might be stuck on, can I just hit people with this one combo for a long time before you're like, okay, wait, hold on. How do I make this better?
Yeah.
Or how do I set it up? Or how do I avoid dying when somebody keeps doing this thing to me and I need an escape route for it? Or you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that's that thing is just, I'm just saying it's a couple layers deeper than that. Like, what am I even doing with this character layer? You know? But like that, as he's mentioning, one of the most like blatant, obvious, I remember examples of this was like before a character gets invented, people are kind of just like going willy-nilly, and then like you'll see someone play it in like tournament or something, and then the character gets cemented, right? Rufus in Street Fighter 4 showed up and had a bunch of moves and did a bunch of things, but until Justin Wong started dive kicking with him, there was no, what am I doing with these moves exactly? You know what I mean? It was kind of just like, okay, I'm gonna try. It was nebulous. But like that's the type of thing that you want a good move list to say, like, dive kick, this is one of your best tools. You're going to want to use this to put the pressure on people. You're going to, you know, give them that information instead of just going like, here's all your cards, figure it out.
Incorporated into my play, and I'll make note of the things that I still need to do. In terms of written resources, that's going to depend on the game you're playing. Gulity Gear and other ArcSys games have comprehensive guides on dustleak.com. A lot of Tekken info is in Google spreadsheets that get passed around on Reddit. Figuring out where your game lives online is just about as Googling.
Yeah.
As you watch
I wish
and
it didn't
read,
have to be
hop
that
into
way,
training
but
mode
it's
and
true.
work on a few bread and butter combos. Don't worry about optimizing yet.
Nope.
You need to develop your muscle memory to the point where you can hit your combos at all. A few days after I picked up Tekken, I got on Twitter and posted a video of me hitting King's most basic, unoptimized combo. I did it, I might have said.
Hell yeah.
And a passing commenter might have asked, did what? This will be a pattern that repeats over your time in fighting games. You're going to put a lot of effort into mastering things that to outsiders appear inconsequential and to experts insignificant.
Pause. God. I hope I'm not fucking boring everybody by just, you know, getting granular about this.
We're doing philosophy right here. Like, we're just,
because this ain't. We've graduated from slop streaming into like my dissertation. But
no,
this is
ignore that. Just say what you have to say.
When I play any character in any fighting game and I go into training mode and I try to find a combo that I think works and I start using that. Okay. So I just started playing Street Fighter 6. I played Luke for a couple seconds, and I went, you know what? Let me play Jamie.
Okay, that's cool.
I'm playing Jamie, and I'm having fun with Jamie, right? I'm kind of on the Jamie train at the moment. I don't know what I'm doing with the character. So all I did was I went into training mode, and I've touched it a little bit last night when 3 a.m., like I said, and then a bit, and then earlier today. And I just kind of went like, all right, crouching medium kick, and then into Hadoken. That's it, right? I'm just doing that thing, because I'm like, that's the one thing I know I can kind of fish for, and I don't know anything else about how to combo with this character yet, right? So my step 1 is like, I get that down. And then step 2 is I go either to like the challenges if they exist, or to Twitter, and I type in like Jamie combo, and I watch and see what people did, and I see like a fancy
your mind.
Yeah, I see like a big long fancy combo, and I go, oh shit, okay,
I can do that.
right?
That's a possibility in my head now.
And then I go back to training mode, and then I do that combo that I watched on Twitter, and then it takes me an hour to do it, and then I fail at it, and then I finally pull it off, and I go, that is way too fucking inconsistent and hard for me to do on a regular basis. I can't do that. I'm not that good yet. I'm going to cut out like half of that and stop it part way through at a place where I know I can pull it off consistently. So everything I'm doing, like all my Gulity Gear, Nago, Ryuki stuff, all that stuff, I'm instantly doing suboptimal combos because I know that, yeah, but Woolie can do these. This is Woolie level, you know? And if I try to go for that little bit of extra damage, I'm going to drop it all, like a whole lot, and fuck it.
Okay.
So that what he's talking about right there of just like, yo, I did it. It's like, yeah, that crazy full-on Steve Fox crumple from round start all the way to the wall into shotgun fists that does 60 to 70%. No fucking way. I don't have that ability. Here's what I can do. About half of that combo, and then end it on a big hit.
Yeah.
Cool. That's my bread and butter personally.
Mileage. Yeah.
You know? So, like, the thing that I go and I see is, like, what the character's supposed to be doing. I fucking strip that down to the point where it's, like, execution dumb. And I can worry more about, like, moving around, not getting hit, whatever. And then the moment I landed, oh, shit, I can do this. And I don't have to worry about it. So, like, absolutely find your own level of comfort combos, you know, so that you can just stop thinking about the full extension and all that shit, you know, because it's so much more important to be like, yo, if I can do 5 hits that do, and not to mention like on a more complicated thing in fighting games, the more hits you do, the less damage each subsequent hit does. So like the fanciest version of a combo in some cases will be like, let's say like, I don't know, whatever, 60% of the person's life bar. But if you do a version that removes like 2 or 3 hits from it, that's way easier, it's going to do like 50%. And that's pretty decent.
Yeah, not too far.
You know?
It works.
Like you're going to get, for the level and comfort, you're still putting up a really good fight if you're not doing the most damage possible, but you're still doing threatening amounts of damage. You can stop earlier if it's more comfortable. Yeah. So like at a beginner level, absolutely do this.
That doesn't mean it's not an accomplishment. Good job. But nailing combos only accounts for a tiny, tiny percentage of what goes into playing a match. And the only way to start figuring that out is to fight.
Step 7. Fight a human.
Mm-hmm.
Sitting here on this screen for the first time can be scary. I mean, maybe not for you, maybe you're some sort of real fucking cool guy. But for me, not knowing what would happen when I hit that matchmake button was nerve-wracking. Another real human being is about to see you fumble around with your buttons and drop your combos and forget to block in real time. But it's okay. It'll be fine. As intimidating as that human-to-human connection is, it's also absolutely core to the joy of fighting games. Now, I'm not saying there's no value to fighting the CPU. It is a good way to keep learning your own character's moveset and develop muscle memory.
Okay, thank you.
It can also help you familiarize yourself with the capabilities of other characters. You can learn that Sagat has this big kick and this uppercut and, whoa, 2 different fireballs. But once you've mentally logged that stuff, there's not much more it can do to prepare you for fighting a real person.
I mean, it's super true that you have to fight a human being. But again, how to tread water, how to not drown, right? If you go and you watch the Dragon Ball Fighters episode of Newcomers, for example, the amount of things happening on screen was a lot. And Josh was like, oh my God, there's beams, there's 3 characters now, and like there's a lot. And like, sure, you can learn in the deep end. Fighting the computer will give you the chance to take it all in at your pace, right? It's a live environment. It's not going to be the same as a person, but you're still going to have situations where sometimes you're going to do a move and it's going to hit, and then you're going to be like, I'll do a combo now. And then other times you'll do a move and they'll block it and you'll be like, oh shit.
What do I do?
Right? Remember when Josh did his super dash?
Yeah.
And then the guy blocked it and he was like, oh no, he blocked.
Oh, no. Yeah.
I wasn't expecting that. What do I do now? Right? And it's like, yeah, so that you absolutely can use the computer to get yourself less nervous about all the things happening, you know, because like what, like you're, the other person is going to add to those jitters no matter what, but you got to get yourself under control. And if you're like there's just so much going on, you got to get that part out of the way. And I mean, fuck, like I know personally, just going back to the days of, you know, playing StarCraft a million years ago, like I really do. I just, again, I have such a hard time with like mouse RTS stuff that like it was challenging enough fighting the computer and doing the campaigns for me that like when we started doing like versus stuff, I was just like, okay, I'm gonna just keep it to the basics because like I'm never gonna be moving my units as efficiently. I'm gonna forget about the group that I sent over there. I'm not gonna make the drones properly. I'm not gonna expand. You know, there's so much going on there that is like, I'm the problem. It doesn't matter what I'm fighting. This environment is I'm not used to it yet. And getting matches in against the computer will get you used to that environment, regardless of who you're fighting.
That's fair.
Advances in fighting game AI, the CPU won't string those moves together like a human opponent, and fighting a robot is just not as fun. So take a deep breath, set your expectations low, and hit that matchmaking button. Or one of those matchmaking buttons. Most fighting games are going to have a couple of options, so let's go over those. Ranked matchmaking tracks your performance and skill using a bunch of different metrics, then attempts to match you against opponents of the same skill level. Usually there's some sort of meta progression here, as you earn new titles or badges, or in the case of Strive, literally move towards the top of a tower. The obvious pro here is that as a new player, you should be paired up with other new players, so you'll actually have a chance of winning, and winning feels good. The con is that even when you're fighting for fake online points, that sense that you're being evaluated changes everything. Wow. Getting bumped down a level after a losing streak can be really demoralizing. It also changes the behavior of your opponents.
Still haven't transcended humanity, huh? You lack discipline.
Separating your self-worth from your performance can be tough, and it makes some people act really silly. It can cause people to get obsessive about their win rates. They might duck you in matchmaking if you play a character that they have a hard time against. They might bail out of a set the moment they lose. They might send you nasty messages. Quick tip on this if you're worried about getting shit from toxic players. Lock down your message settings ahead of time. Now, I know I just listed a
Motherfuckers getting dusted in Street Fighter 6 and then like winning one round and teabagging. It's like, man, your life is interesting. I hope you find peace.
A lot of cons that make ranked sound like shit, but it's actually fine. The other option is unranked. Here, the matchmaking will just stick you with another player. Any other player. Or you'll meet up in some sort of virtual arcade setting. Unlike ranked play, there's no digital clout on the line, so people are much more likely to play long sets. That's a good thing. In fighting games, even at the highest level of play, there's always an adjustment period between opponents. Pro players have the knowledge and experience to tune up quickly, but for beginners it takes longer. Let's say your opponent is using a technique that keeps blowing you up. You might not have time to run to a website and look up the frame data, but in a long set, you do have more opportunities to rummage through your toolkit and try to find something that'll solve your problem. And if you find a solution, you have the chance to test it out repeatedly and start burning it into your muscle memory. The most obvious downside to unranked matchmaking is that you might get paired up with somebody who is way, way better than you.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not really a downside in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Losing 20 matches to a very experienced player is a great way to learn. You learn which of your reliable strategies aren't really viable against better players, and you get to see the strength of good fundamentals.
This came out post brisket. I thought it was
August 18th, 2022.
I thought it was older than that.
And you'll see something that you are very unlikely to see in the beginner ranks. The power of not pressing buttons. When I started playing unranked Tekken, I would fight opponents who felt like absolute brick walls. They would just block, punish, and whiff punish. Every loss was the result of me overextending and using unsafe options. So I tried to emulate their style, and gradually I got better.
Yes.
Still love hitting buttons though. Anyways, both
Shit, that's a really good point that I don't think I ever brought up, which is like learning that it's not always your turn and that sometimes you got to just chill.
Sometimes you gotta do nothing.
Right? Because,
And,
yeah, a lot of people who figure out like their combos and their moves are like, cool, now it's time to just keep doing them as opposed to like when to block and stuff, you know?
Yeah.
There's oftentimes a point you find out early in round one when you're like, oh, this person can do some crazy shit. They never block.
Yeah.
And the moment you realize somebody is that
Oh, never
archetype in
block.
your brain,
Just let them do something and capitalize on it.
you stop having to try.
Yeah.
Because now it's like, I'll just wait for you to do the thing you're doing because you're never blocking. And I'll sweep you 5 times in a row.
Yeah.
That'll tell you something.
And that gets you so far ahead.
Mhm.
Just knowing to block or to like have the presence of letting the other person commit and mess up will get you ahead. That's why I was a top player for the longest time in Melee in the country, because people would just try to do stuff and I'd be like, all right, try to do something. I will just footsie you, make you whiff, and I will get back in and punish you. And that happens in Street Fighter 2 and any fighting game.
There are few feelings that are comparable to somebody who is running a train on you and then you realize that that's all they have. Like, it's like fighting Chip in Gulity Gear.
Yeah.
In many cases, is a great example of like, not every Chip player. I don't know, Demoli, you out there? What's up? But a lot of people are like, the strength of this character is I get to just keep doing things. But the moment you stop them and are forcing them to block things, they have to figure out what the fuck to do with their life.
Yeah.
Because they never learned how to do that. They never learned how to just hold back for a minute. And
They're shook.
You'd be surprised because those people, here's the secret. When you learn to just do your combo, and then as soon as they get up, you do another one, and you learn to just keep doing that, that'll take you from the beginning of the game into like silver. You'll get way through the beginning rankings to like low medium rankings with I know how to just run a train and I don't block ever because people will just constantly lose to whatever you're doing.
Yeah.
With, you know, and like that, the moment you learn that and you stop losing to those people, like it's fucking great. Another side note that was not mentioned earlier about jumping online, and I was waiting to see if he'd get to it, but he didn't mention it. I throw this in there as an optional thing, but I don't know. I think it really helps. When you jump online for that first time and that first series of times, do not even look at whether you win or lose. Your goals should not be about winning or losing. That's really nice. But your goal should be to pull off that one thing you learned how to do in training a minute ago. So when we went online in the newcomers episode, I remember the goal was like, yo, just land a level 3. It doesn't matter if you win or lose. See if you can figure out how to land like a big level 3 on the opponent, you know? And it was just like, get used to your tools and like how to use them successfully.
Yeah.
Because there's no way you're going to know enough to just pull a win out consistently. So there's no reason it should be emphasized, you know? And I wish that games would design something for that. You know, I wish there'd be a way to like, I don't know, you know, like like some, I mean, God, we'll talk about it when we get into 6 later, but like the training mode in that is fantastic. But something where it's like, yo, you don't die until you get hit by a specific thing, you know, like just mess around until you land that. That's the win condition. Because by creating that goal for yourself, you start to see that like, oh yeah, losing is going to be a part of the beginning of this, but that's okay. And this is a different, fighting games are kind of different from a lot of other genres in that like no one's going to carry you to victory on your team with 6 people, you know? So how do I learn when to use this special? Like that's what's going to help you get better.
Ranked and unranked are valuable. If you stop having fun with one, try the other for a bit. And on the topic of having fun,
Stepping. Struggle.
That's fun.
You lose.
Isn't it past your bedtime?
at the end of a fighting game match, you win or you lose. There's no teammates to blame for not pulling their weight. There's no XP meter sliding up to reward you for your participation.
Oh, the ego!
You will, beyond a shadow of a doubt, lose a lot. Self-doubt and frustration can feel overwhelming when you're in the thick of it, but it is all a part of the process of getting better. So here are a few tips for getting through it. Separate your self-worth from your performance. Okay, I know this is kind of like saying stop being mentally ill, but it still needs to be said. You are not your win-loss ratio. Getting demoted doesn't mean you suck as a person, even if it feels that way. And if you start feeling that way, it's time to take a damn break. Taking a break doesn't just let you cool
on
off.
all levels.
It makes you better.
Besides Master
When
and
your
Street
hands
Fighter
are off
6,
the joystick
you
and
get
you're doing
one
something else.
demotion
Your brain
protection.
keeps gently churning on those situations, looking for the solutions that you couldn't find in the heat of the moment. Your body is rewiring neuron pathways to make your execution smoother and better. Playing fighting games feels a bit more like a traditional skill-based hobby like playing guitar. There's a base level of effort and self-direction. You need to get enjoyment out of it.
Trash.
That means that you won't always have the mental energy to do it. And that's okay, don't force it. A break from fighting games can be a couple hours or a couple months. The games will still be there when you get back, and your body will remember what to do. Watch replays. God, this one is so hard. It's like hearing your voice in a recording or seeing yourself on video.
What beats you?
Do I really do that? You do. But it's so valuable and you can't neglect it. Most fighting games keep a log of your most recent matches with the ability to play them back. You should take advantage of that. Seeing yourself play can help you recognize habits that you want to correct. It can also help you appreciate what you do well and what you want to do more of. And when you're feeling really brave, take the next step. Show your gameplay to someone else and ask them for tips. But before you can do that, first you need
Step 9. Community and competition.
Not just like watching replays. I mean, it's almost like just saying to people like, yo, go to training mode. It's like, you got to learn how to lab smart, not hard, right? Watching replays, you also have to know what to look for. And it wasn't mentioned, but when you just watch yourself lose, like you got to go, okay, hold on a second. You're looking for your bad habits, and you're looking for instances where you had no idea what the solution to the problem was. So an example of bad habits that I early on always tend to look for is I will literally go, what is the first thing I do at the beginning of the round most of the time? Right? Literally just one singular piece of data. What is my first action? Walking forward, jumping forward, backing up, pressing a button. What do I do? And then the second thing I ask is, how often does it hit? How often does it work? How often does it get me immediately in a bad situation? And if it oftentimes leads to a bad situation, I'm going to stop doing it, right? And that's also how I learned that, like, you know, in DNF Duel, Crusader's like light punch is an excellent round opening move because a lot of characters can't really reach you, and you can just start out by taking control of the match right away. Okay. But what is my first thing, you know? Go see what your habit is and see if like you are doing something that's helping you right away or not. That's an example of what to do when it comes to like watching a replay. Is like find a situation where you like, what do you know, and then later on you kind of go like, oh, what do I do when I'm in the corner, right? Well, as soon as I get placed in the corner, I'm on the ground. do I have a habit of always doing something?
Yeah.
What do I do? You know, and then did it work, etc. And so you kind of break it down in that way. And then the second thing I said was not being sure of what to do in a situation, right? And I guess that's like you're playing a game, you're playing Guilty Gear Strive, and you're fighting a soul bad guy, and then he does Heavy Mob Cemetery, the big command grab to you, and you die to it 10 times. And then you go, I'm enough of this, right? Okay, whenever you decide to, you come back to it, notice that you ate that move 10 out of 10 times and go, how do I actually stop this? Can I hit him out of it? No. Can I jump out of it? Only if I'm not already doing something. Okay, so if I'm doing something, I'm going to get hit by it, most likely, unless I learn how to RC out of it, right? And then you kind of break it down from there. But like even before that, it's like, oh, okay. You kind of come to a conclusion. Well, in that move's case, it's like, okay, so I can try to roll cancel, do the Roman cancel or whatever. But in general, if he's going to do it and I'm already doing something, I'm dead. Therefore, there are times where I should not be doing something if I think he's getting ready to do it.
Yeah.
And if I think he's getting ready to do it and then I kind of just wait and then he does it, he moves, does the heavy mob, I jump over it, we're good. You know? So notice that you ate that move every time and then go like, yeah, how do I actually not eat that?
Yeah.
You
What's
know?
the counter to that?
So like it's not just watching the replay and going, oh God, I suck. It's like look for these specific points of information, you know.
This can be one of the greatest joys of fighting games. The fighting game community is the collective, but it's not monolithic. There are hundreds or thousands of Discord communities out there for fighting games. Some are game specific, some are character specific, some are geared towards certain demographics and skill levels. Do some Googling and ask around on Twitter until you find a place that feels good for you. Whether it's folks you meet through these communities or your own network of friends, playing fighting games against someone you know is so good. Yeah. For me, knowing who's on the other side of the connection completely obliterates the frustration and antagonism that I can feel playing against random online opponents. Partially because it's just more humanizing when you know that person, but also because you can ask questions in chat. If you're in a good community, your opponent isn't going to keep any secrets. Because people who've decided that they want to get good at fighting games have signed an unspoken contract of mutual self-improvement. Iron sharpens iron. Fighting stronger opponents makes you stronger. So a good sparring partner will explain exactly how and why they're winning.
Let's go.
Until it's time to compete.
Very well then. Far be it from me to turn down a challenge.
That's why we're here, man.
Pugilist.
Through your community or just by being online, you might come across some online tournaments, and you should sign up for them. Tournaments are really cool. They offer you the chance to do a lot of things that you won't get in your casual play. First of all, it's one of the few times you and your buddies will step into that magic circle of competition, mutually and temporarily agreeing to set aside the helpful hints and just going all out, seeing who will win. If you're used to mostly playing friendlies, it's fun to try out a different vibe. The other useful thing is that it's fucking scary. At first. The first few times I did online tournaments, I literally got shaky and sweaty. I forgot my combos and I mashed buttons. But each time I did it, it got easier. And once you've played under pressure, you'll be better in casual settings. Random matchmaking doesn't get my heart rate up like it used to. Finally, a lot of tournaments are streamed on Twitch, which means you might get a chance to rewatch the VOD and hear someone commentate your match. Like a lot of parts of the fighting game process, this can make you feel vulnerable, but a good commentator will put into clear terms what's going on, and that can be an incredible learning tool.
They've proven they're pretty good at fighting out of the corner. Already, Doubleman now back thrown into the corner. Again, huge life deficit, but the other way around. Gets hit by the stomps. No, but drops it at the target combo.
Yeah, you're one of the Falk fans out there. There's dozens of you.
That's fun.
Shit.
Something that was in your mind?
Tournaments. When you go to a tournament, so that was discussing signing up and going online. If you happen to be attending a tournament in person locally, or an event, note that like it can also be like insanely scary, but it's super okay to you don't have to sign up for a tournament to attend one, right? And here's the thing, that's the like another little secret is like locals and tournaments are level up hyperbolic time chambers. I have never attended a single fighting game meetup where I didn't walk away a better player, even incrementally or largely. I always learned something.
Yeah.
And
if you just walk around and you just look at different stations, it's just like looking on YouTube. You're still learning. Like, oh my God, what did they do? Like, ask questions, talk to people.
Dozens of screens around you will be showing you things that you didn't know the whole time you're there. And if you sit and watch them, you'll be like, oh shit. And there's going to be people on casual stations the entire time as well. So even if you're not in competition, you can still sit down on a station and just like learn and learn and learn. And if you meet somebody that's cool, they'll even be like, yo, I play that character too. Here, let me show you some stuff. And I've had that experience before, and that's been fucking great. So don't, miss out on the opportunity to just learn by being at a tournament. The analogy I used is, if you're a musician, you know this, but playing on your own levels you up at like, let's say a rate of like 100%. Playing in a band or jamming with a group levels you up at 500%. When you play with a group in coordination, you learn and get better and improve so much more than you do on your own. And that's the same thing that happens when you are going into a fighting game event. You walk into that environment, you're surrounded by it, you're seeing it. Knowledge is in the air, you're breathing it in just standing there. It is absolutely like playing a musical instrument. If you're in one of those environments, it's impossible to walk away and not be a better player.
One of the many wonderful and intimidating things about fighting games is that there's no prescribed end goal for participation. There's no final boss or end game treadmill. Even the best player in the world is only the best until someone surpasses them. No matter where you are in your journey, in some sense, you're still at the beginning. That means you won't always know the next step forward, but it also means you're never falling behind. And as long as you're on that path, learning and having fun, you're doing it right.
Fantastic video. Good job, Patrick.
That's pretty good.
Excellent.
So this video went around and people had thoughts about it. It got people talking, right?
Sure did.
Huh? It's pretty good. I would say one last thing. If you actually get into fighting games, it's really useful to play people of different levels as well. Like they said, playing against somebody better than you will help you like clean up what's not true. They'll tell you like, oh no, this doesn't work, this doesn't work. But playing against people that are not as experienced as you or less experienced as you, like you can practice things and feel comfortable around them. And playing people at your level will allow you to like work on your mind games and force you to like adapt, because you know what they do, they know what you do, and then you're playing a different game of, touch and feel, adaptation. It's every level is important. You can take something out of it,
Yeah. Like it's again when you talk about things at a competitive level, it's different from at a casual. But one thing that is true, a lot of top players, a lot of people who you see showing up always consistently in these games and these names that pop up over and over again, there's like things that you're like, well, what makes them actually able to like consistently be at that top 8, at that top 3, how is Daigo always getting to the fucking top of the bracket back in the day, and no matter what changes it goes through and no matter what is happening, it's like, okay, well, sure, there's overall just years and years of experience, but what does that actually break down to? What does that actually mean? There's individual things, and it's funny enough because he actually talks about this in his book. All right, what is it? The art to, or the
will to keep
the
on
will
winning.
keep on winning. Yeah. But like it's something that is not often discussed, but it's just elaborating on the point we made earlier about recognizing when someone doesn't block. Is top players have a skill that a lot of people who are intermediate and even advanced do not. That has nothing to do with being good against other people who are top players. So they have a skill set of like, oh, I got some sick shit for you because I know how good you are, and we go back and forth and we've played at this level. They have a completely separate ability that doesn't really get used or talked about as much, but it is the ability to analyze and recognize how good their opponent is, and then adjust what they do to the optimum level to not fuck around and have any mistakes happen and just beat you.
Yeah.
Right?
Like if you're doing a frame trap against somebody who mashes DP versus a top player who blocks, you're putting yourself at different risks.
I mean, dumbing it down even more. Let's dumb it down even more.
Okay.
To get out of your pools, you're gonna have to know how to fight people who are gonna do a wake up ultra. After that, not as many players are going to do it until they suddenly do in like those surprise moments.
You need to play differently.
But most really good people don't wake up and do their big ultra.
Yeah.
But beginning players do.
They do. So you need to be a bit safer.
So you're looking specifically for that tool set, right? You want to have that. And there's a little mentality that they have for that. So all this to say that like they're doing that and they're grading you and seeing what you do and what you don't do and putting your habits together. And Daigo looked at me and went, oh, he is crouch teching everything. I can Shoryuken him 3 times in a row because he profiled me and put me in the box and he was correct, right? They have that ability. What you do online to survive is a small version of that by kind of going like, okay, this guy likes to do this. This person just does that, you know? Like, they're going to do every time I get close, they're going to go for a throw. 100% of the time, without fail, they're afraid of getting thrown. So I can just keep pressing a button and I'll beat out every one of those throw attempts until they realize, oh shit. And then they have to do something. But maybe they never realize. And early on, it'll take multiple games before somebody realizes a mistake like that. Later on, at advanced levels, they'll learn within 3, right? But that's what it kind of comes down to, is like just finding ways to, detect a habit and go, oh, this person keeps doing this.
Yeah.
That is a reliable piece of information
Getting
I have about
the
you.
habit and trying to like ascertain what they know. But that comes with time.
Yeah.
So it's like poker.
Yeah, great video. I said what I had to say, I suppose, as we went through it. But it's important and it needs to be said because so many people like forget what it's like to start at the beginning. They forget. They totally, you get lost in the process of like just like competing and stuff, and you just kind of like, it's a whole different world. But if we don't get new players playing these games, they will die again. There's no guarantee they're going to come back the second time they die. They're in a pretty healthy spot right now, thank God. 2009, we did it. We got in, but there's nothing stopping that from just getting wiped the fuck out. And look how long it took Rollback to fucking make its way through, right? Sometimes the decisions are obvious, but it's still stupid, and it's still gonna struggle for sometimes when the answers are obvious, it doesn't mean people or companies are gonna do them. I think what I'm talking about, where the best way to learn about fighting games is outside of the game itself, will continue to be a big problem. I think it's good. I think that's going to be a huge hurdle to overcome, and that's why I do this. Because like the games themselves are not really doing it. And like we're gonna absolutely just like wall off everybody if more effort isn't made towards just like showing people how to start. And once they do, like, it's crack. It's fucking crack. You get all that down, and you kind of have that moment where you're like, what do I want to play today? Fucking let me jump back on. And then you're in. And and then, like, I have those moments where I said, like, I'm just like, all I'm thinking about is just like, oh man, I want to go try this out. What if I did this? What if I did that? And it becomes, like you're fully in. We need to get that across to people. So excellent video.